The sun was just starting to dip below the canyons in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, it was a Monday evening, February 23rd, 2026.
And if you were walking down this specific street, everything would look, perfectly calm.
Just a normal night.
Exactly. There was this house with a Valentine's wreath still up,
And a large red heart decoration right on the front door.
which is the kind of detail that makes a place feel like a home, you know? Like someone lives there who cares about the holidays, about warmth.
But that quiet domestic scene was about to be shattered.
Around 6:40 p.m.,
Right, the silence of the hills was just broken by sirens.
the LAPD and the LA Fire Department were responding to a really desperate 911 call.
It was a friend of the resident. They were at the house, they were worried, and they just couldn't get into the bedroom.
And when first responders finally breached that door, they didn't find a starlet or a Hollywood party gone wrong.
No, they found a tragedy that completely defies the usual Hollywood narrative.
Inside that home lived a woman who had dedicated her entire adult life to pulling other people out of the darkness.
She was a professional healer.
But on this Monday night, she couldn't save herself.
The cameras have spent decades flashing for her father, capturing his smile, but she lived in the quiet shadows of service.
And just like that, Hollywood lost a hidden healer. Welcome to StarScope Report. I'm Jamie,
And I'm Jordan.
and we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and the stories behind the fame.
From red carpet surprises to the scandals you see on social media, we really try to dive deep into what's actually going on.
But today, we're doing something a little different. Usually we're tracking the glitz and the box office numbers.
Yeah, the fun stuff.
Right. But our mission has always been to uncover the human stories. And today, the story is about the crushing weight of being human.
We're talking about Katherine Hartley Short.
She was 42 years old.
And for anyone who follows comedy history, that last name carries a massive amount of weight. She is the daughter of Martin Short.
Which immediately creates this huge disconnect in your brain, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You think of Martin Short and you think of pure, unfiltered joy. You think of Jiminy Glick or Only Murders in the Building.
To associate that level of public happiness with this level of private tragedy, it feels wrong.
It is really jarring. But the deep dive we need to do today isn't just about a celebrity father losing a child,
It's the headline, sure.
but the real story is about the central tension of Katherine's life. We've been looking through law enforcement reports, family statements, and the details of her clinical career.
And the theme that keeps coming up is this tragic paradox.
Katherine was a highly educated, licensed clinical social worker.
She saved thousands of people.
Veterans, psychiatric patients.
Yet she lost her own battle.
Before we get into the psychology of it, we should probably establish the facts of that night.
Yeah, let's look at the timeline. We mentioned the 911 call.
So the timeline is Monday evening, February 23rd.
And a friend was actually with Katherine at the house, right? Yes, they were there, realized something was very wrong, and couldn't gain access to the bedroom. That's what prompted the emergency call.
And when the responders breached the entrance, they found Katherine deceased.
The official cause of death, which was confirmed by the medical examiner, was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
That is just, it's suffocating to even think about.
It really is.
And once the news broke and the family confirmed it, the reaction wasn't just the usual tabloid gossip. It felt entirely different.
Well, the family issued a statement almost immediately, and they avoided that generic PR language we usually see.
The notes app, apologies.
Exactly. They didn't do that. They used words like profound grief and devastated.
But what really stood out was how they described her. They called her a light and joy.
Which is a beautiful sentiment, but it also highlights that contrast we were just talking about.
You can be a light to others and still be completely in the dark yourself.
Yeah.
Now, looking at the bigger picture, this happened while Martin Short was very much in the public eye.
He was actually mid-tour. He was doing a run with Steve Martin, the best of Steve Martin, and Martin Short.
They were scheduled to play the Miller High Life Theater in Milwaukee.
And the Orpheum Theater in Minneapolis just days after this happened.
This brings up that impossible, show-must-go-on mentality that performers have.
It's a brutal industry standard.
You have Katherine in the shadows dealing with this heavy clinical reality, and then you have her father, whose entire existence is public performance.
He was literally on the road when this timeline was unfolding.
But in this case, the show didn't go on.
No, those dates were immediately postponed.
I would assume the promoters were panicking about refunds and logistics.
You'd think so, given how the industry works, but the reaction was actually the complete opposite.
Really?
Yeah, there was this massive outpouring of patients from the public. The venues asked ticket holders to just hold their seats.
emphasizing that the community wanted to support the grieving father.
It wasn't about the show anymore. It was about the human being behind the mic. It was a rare moment where the industry actually just paused.
And that's not even the wildest part of this story, because this wasn't just a story about a celebrity's daughter.
Not at all.
To understand the true tragedy here, you really have to understand the incredible high-stakes double life Katherine was leading.
Because she wasn't just sitting in the Hollywood Hills living off royalties.
If you're captivated by these deep dives into the real lives behind the headlines, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even more untold Hollywood stories coming up.
So we have to look at the credentials she earned, not just the last name she inherited.
Right. Let's talk about her background. Katherine was adopted by Martin and his late wife, Nancy Dolman.
And the short family dynamic is really unique for Hollywood.
People always talk about the short family rule.
Right.
But honestly, doesn't every tight-knit family say that family comes first? What made their dynamic different from the usual PR spin?
It's definitely fair to be skeptical, but the difference here was the insulation.
Insulation.
Yeah, they didn't just say family first. They enforced a strict barrier against the industry.
Katherine didn't just avoid the limelight.
She actively built a fortress of normalcy against it. I mean, she did the occasional red carpet.
She was at the Vanity Fair Oscar party in 2011 with her dad.
Yeah, but her focus was completely elsewhere.
So if she wasn't chasing fame, what was she chasing?
She was chasing understanding. She was really grinding in academia.
She graduated from NYU in 2006 with a degree in psychology and gender study.
And then she went to USC for her Master of Social Work. And get this timeline. She finished her master's in 2010.
Wait, 2010?
Yeah.
That's the exact same year her mother, Nancy, died of ovarian cancer.
It is.
Just imagine the resilience required to complete a grueling clinical master's degree while your mother's dying.
It speaks volumes about her character.
But also about her ability to compartmentalize trauma, to just get the job done.
And she didn't choose the easy path in social work either.
She wasn't just doing, like, life coaching for wealthy clients in Malibu.
Far from it. She worked at the UCLA Resnick Neuropsychiatric Hospital for 4 years.
Dealing with dual diagnosis patients.
Yes.
Now, I think most people hear dual diagnosis and just think addiction. Why is that specific classification so critical to understanding her work?
It's about the severe complexity of treatment. Dual diagnosis means you have a patient with a severe psychiatric disorder.
Like schizophrenia or bipolar 1.
Exactly. Or major depressive disorder. And they are also battling substance abuse, often to self-medicate their psychiatric symptoms.
So it's a total chicken and egg situation.
Exactly, and it makes treatment incredibly volatile. You can't treat the depression without addressing the addiction.
And you can't treat the addiction without stabilizing the brain chemistry.
Right. So Katherine wasn't just sitting on a couch doing talk therapy. She was managing high-stakes physiological chaos.
And she was doing this while coming from a background of immense privilege.
She could have done literally anything else.
Why put yourself in the trenches like that?
Because she fundamentally believed in service.
She also trained at the West LA Veterans Administration.
Treating severe PTSD.
She did pro bono work with public counsel.
And at the time of her death, she was working part-time at a May Health in private practice.
What makes a May Health different from a standard clinic?
It's an integrated care model. It combines psychiatry, therapy, and peer support all in one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's designed for people with severe mental illness who need way more than just a weekly 45-minute appointment.
She was dealing with the most vulnerable populations in Los Angeles.
She was.
It just feels like a cruel irony. She spent her days teaching people mechanisms to survive, but those same tools couldn't protect her.
It's actually a heavily documented phenomenon in clinical psychology.
The wounded healer archetype.
Yes, the wounded healer. The data shows that people drawn to social work often have higher rates of childhood trauma or personal struggle than the general population.
So it's not just compassion fatigue. It's deeper than burnout.
Much deeper. It's related to something called vicarious trauma.
How is that different from burnout?
Burnout is when you are physically and emotionally tired of your job. Vicarious trauma is when your actual worldview shifts because you are absorbing the trauma of your patients.
You start seeing the world as fundamentally unsafe.
Exactly. Katherine was absorbing that dark energy from veterans and crisis patients for over a decade.
But she was also incredibly transparent about the fact that she was battling alongside them. She didn't hide her own struggles.
She didn't, and there's a key detail here that really breaks my heart.
We need to talk about Joni.
Yeah, Joni.
Joni was her dog, right?
Katherine had a service dog named Joni. named after Joni Mitchell, obviously.
But Joni wasn't just a pet.
No, Joni was a psychiatric service animal specifically trained to assist with Catherine's own mental illness.
That seems like a really bold move for a clinician.
It is. Usually in therapy, you're taught to be a blank slate.
Right, like don't let the patient see your cracks. Let the focus be on them. Bringing your own support animal into the room feels like it completely breaks that professional wall.
It does break the wall, but she did it intentionally. On her professional website, she actually wrote about this.
What did she say?
She called Joni a sweetheart who would greet clients. She used the dog to bridge the gap between doctor and patient.
She was essentially telling her patients, I am trained to help you, but I am also in the trenches with you.
That is incredibly brave, but it also sounds totally exhausting.
Because you never get to turn it off. You are the doctor and the patient at the exact same time.
Exactly. And she took that advocacy even further. She worked with Bring Change to Mind.
That's the nonprofit dedicated to ending mental health stigma.
Yeah. She was actively fighting the very darkness that ultimately consumed her.
And later in the episode, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding her final weeks. Because she was carrying a lot of personal pain, too.
We talked about her mom passing away back in 2010.
But there was something else that happened just weeks before she died that we really need to touch on.
This is the context that paints the picture of an extraordinarily grueling emotional period.
On January 30th, 2026.
Which is less than a month before Katherine died.
The family lost Katherine O'Hara.
Katherine O'Hara, obviously an absolute comedy legend.
But what was her actual connection to Katherine Short? Was it just that their dads were famous friends?
Oh, it was much, much deeper than that. Martin Short and Katherine O'Hara go back 50 years to the Godspell days in Toronto.
Wow, 50 years.
Yeah, she was effectively a maternal figure to the Short children, especially after Nancy died.
And Katherine O'Hara died after a private battle with cancer and a pulmonary embolism.
So think about it. Katherine loses her biological mother to cancer.
And then loses her surrogate mother figure to cancer.
And then less than 4 weeks later,
she's gone too.
It's just compounding grief. It's layer upon layer upon layer.
When you look at that timeline, January 30th to February 23rd, you see a woman who was likely stripped of her emotional anchors.
While still trying to be an anchor for her patients every single day.
It brings us right back to that visual we started with.
The red heart on the door.
Before we get to what the neighbors had to say about that heart, stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. We uncover the stories no one else is telling.
So let's go back to the Hollywood Hills.
The neighbors spoke out after the news broke, and the picture they painted wasn't of a chaotic celebrity life.
Not at all. They described her as quiet. They called her a great neighbor.
And that red heart on the door. It was for Valentine's Day, obviously.
But the fact that it was still up.
It was still up on February 23rd.
Neighbors said it became a symbol of her spirit. It wasn't just a decoration left behind.
It felt like a representation of the warmth she tried to project, even when she was struggling so deeply inside.
It's so ironic, isn't it?
She was surrounded by the literal tools of healing.
At AMI Health, they use CBT, DBT, mindfulness, peer support, all the best science we have.
She knew all of it.
She taught it.
Why wasn't it enough?
That is the ultimate tragedy of this story. She had the toolkit. She knew the theory inside and out.
But mental illness doesn't care how many degrees you have on your wall.
It really doesn't. The burden of the healer is that sometimes knowing how to swim doesn't stop the wave from being too big.
She was carrying the weight of her patience, the weight of her own grief, the weight of her own biology.
It really makes you rethink how we look at people who work in mental health, doesn't it?
We just assume they have the answers, that they are somehow immune to the disease they treat.
We do. We expect them to be superhuman.
And Katherine's story is a stark reminder that they are just people.
Katherine Hartley Short wasn't just a footnote in a celebrity biography.
She wasn't just Martin Short's daughter.
She was a licensed clinical social worker who spent decades fighting for the most vulnerable people in society.
Veterans, foster youth, people with severe psychosis.
She spent her life trying to make sure other people didn't feel alone.
And that is a legacy worth celebrating.
Absolutely. And because of the heavy nature of this deep dive, we need to be very, very clear about resources.
If you are listening to this right now and you or someone you know is struggling, help is available.
You do not have to carry it alone.
Please reach out. In the U.S., you can call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Just dial 988.
There's also the crisis text line. You can just text the word HOME to 741-741.
And check out Bring Change to Mind at bringchangetomind.org. That was the organization Katherine supported so passionately.
We often look at the children of stars and assume their lives are easy paths paved with gold.
But Katherine's story asks us a really difficult, uncomfortable question.
Who takes care of the caretakers when the lights go down?
That is something we all need to sit with. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.